My name is John Crichton.
My name is John Crichton. My name is John Crichton. Look upward and share the wonders I've seen.
Have we sent the "Don't Shoot Us, We're Pathetic" transmission yet?
It's the first thing we tried, but they still target us.
What do we do to piss these guys off?
Nothing we're aware of.
Hello, and welcome to episode number 9, almost there, 2 digits, of the ScapeCast, your guide to the wonders of Farscape. I'm your co-host, Kevin Batchelder.
And I'm not Lindy Ray. I'm Kim Thompson, and I'm taking over. I could get used to this. Just kidding. Lindy's away at Timeless Destinations in Vancouver, BC, Canada, so I'm filling in. So she's off playing, and I'm working. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the show, about her trip to Canada.
Very cool. Welcome aboard, Kim. Great to have you up here in the co-pilot seat, shall we say.
Yay! I'm in the Chewbacca seat.
Along with all the fun we're going to have with Kim today, on this episode of the ScapeCast, we're also going to have
Part 2 of our Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series.
And also in our continuing series of character reviews, we're going to have, lucky us, we're going to get Erin this week.
Yeah, Erin's a great character. You see her grow so much. I can't wait to hear this character review. She's awesome. So, and then we'll have all of our regular features like trivia, news, and our question of the week. And this show's spoiler level is
Season 4.
And as we mentioned earlier, the reason Kim is helping us out today is because Lindy, along with Nicola and Sammy, this week they're all up at Timeless Destinations. So they get to have some fun and be with all the other scapers and all the other cool folks up there, so I hope they're having a great time.
Yeah, the girls are up at Timeless Destinations, and they've got some really cool stuff they're going to tease us with later, so yeah.
Yeah, I think they've got a chance, hopefully, to talk with several scapers while they're up there, too. And actually, in keeping that in mind, as a reminder, both myself and Kurt, thinking ahead, are going to be at Dragon Con, which is just a few weeks away now, probably less than 3 weeks by the time we're recording this. So any of you listeners that are going to be there, be sure to come up and say hello to us. Kurt and I are going to certainly plan to have some ScapeCast t-shirts or something with us so you can tell that it's us. But we certainly want to talk to the scapers and hopefully get a chance to record some stuff.
Yeah, you guys have to go find Kevin and Kurt and record your answer to our What is Farscape question. Make your voice heard. Oh, and should I tell everyone about the exciting...
Shh. No, let's not go there. That's later in the show.
Sorry.
As I do every show, I was taking a look at our Frapper map again before we started to record, and we got a couple new countries out there, Kim. Rather cool now. We've got listeners showing up in Thailand and also South Africa.
Wow.
So
That's amazing. Worldwide.
Yep, our global reach is expanding, which is very cool. That's great, along with the folks here in the States and all around the world. It's just very nice to find our scapers are coming together here on the podcast. That's very cool.
Okay, next up, we've got this week's episode of Trout Talk. Those of you who've been to the movies recently might be reminded of a certain wildly popular movie. Either that or Ema got into my DVD cupboard again.
Well, hello there. Ema? I didn't recognize you with those dreadlocks and that thick black eyeliner. What's with the sword? Is that a skull and crossbones tattoo on your arm?
Arr! I'm a pirate, you wellnuts! My name's Dread Pirate E. I'm the terror of the uncharted territories. Shiver me timber, shiver my soul. Yo ho heave ho, here we go! Arrgh!
Well, you sure curse like a sailor. Dread.
Walk the plank, ye yellow belly wellnuts. I'll get any wellnuts that calls me names.
Do you even know what a wellnuts is?
Well, sort of. A boy I like told me I must be a wellnuts for worrying what people think about my name. So, a wellnuts must be bad. And Furlough, the surly mechanic, says it. You can hear her down the street right now.
Oh, don't you worry about that. Old Furlough can handle it. Everything's gonna be just fine. That's my motto. No other way, you dumb wellnuts. Have to tell them everything.
So, you listen to that ScapeCast and learn what your name means. And now the other kids are making fun of you? I knew no good would come from that podcast. Now, Dread Pirate E, Furlough was just using her working on cars words.
Really? So what does wellness mean?
Well, the Encyclopedia Unchartica defines it as someone who isn't very bright. But in the common usage, it can mean exactly the opposite. It's like when you call a tall person shorty.
Or like when Lucy calls Charlie Brown a blockhead?
Yeah. Or like John Crichton when he calls Rigel Sparky, Spanky, Fluffy, Buckwheat the 16th.
I thought those were mean names.
They're also nice nicknames, if you say them with affection.
I didn't think they were so nice. But if you say so, I'll believe you, Mr. Hoople.
So maybe that boy wasn't being mean after all.
Maybe. But I'm still taking it to the high seas. Nobody makes fun of Dread Pirate E. Now, Mr. Hoople, I need a pirate hat, leather boots, leather pants, and more black eyeliner.
Any more of that stuff and you'll look like that fool Jack Sparrow. Or a hooker.
Yes, exactly! Captain Hooker!
I think you mean Captain Hook. Well, bad luck, Dread Pirate E. I'm all out of eyeliner and leather pants just at the moment. Anyway, I think it's time for you to take off that fake mustache and get on home for dinner.
Well, maybe I'll postpone my trip until you get those leather pants. Avast, ye hearties! Walk the plank and sleep with the fishes! Bwahahaha! Once those leather pants come in, it's the pirate's life for me. Oh, and after I get a license for my pet fish, Erica.
What? Where'd you hear that?
Oh, any wellness knows you need a license for a pet fish.
Now, Dread Pirate E, what did you learn about name-calling? You don't want to hurt my feelings like those kids at school did to you, now do you?
Yes, you're right. I'm sorry, Mr. Hoople. Thanks for listening. I'll be back soon for those leather pants. Bye now.
Bye, kid.
Shiver me timber, shiver my soul.
Someone really needs to have a long talk with that kid.
Hey, that was a pretty cool word to cover there. I didn't remember that one. I don't remember. Where did I hear that one? Do you know, Kim?
You heard that in a season 1 episode called Till the Blood Runs Clear. That surly mechanic Furlough, who we see later in season 3, is using it on her crew.
Oh yeah, I
think
that's one of Lindy's
like
favorites.
Them very much. Yeah, she loves Furlough.
Hi, this is Brent Barrett with your Farscape trivia question. This episode features a character review of Aaron, and I have to admit, Aaron is my favorite character. So here's a special Peacekeeper Aaron Sun trivia question for you. In how many episodes do we see Aaron's Prowler? You know, her ship? Stay tuned for the answer at the end of the show.
Oh, there we go. Well, last episode I thought I might have had that question, but no, Brent had another little wrinkle with a tricky one on it, so we're just going to have to wait and find out this time.
Yeah, he might be up to his tricks again.
Attention! There are opportunities all around you. Opportunities to help spread the Scaper word around the world. The ScapeCast Beacon, a call to all Scapers to mobilize. Scapers are strongly encouraged... Hey, wait a minute. What happened to my voice? Oh, that's better. Scapers are strongly encouraged to check out the 200th episode of Stargate SG-1 due to air in the U.S. on August 18th. Trust the Beacon. Scapers will not be disappointed. TC Pike is calling on all Scapers to vote in the 5 best TV shows of all time poll. Farscape has slipped to the number 4 slot, so head on over there and let your voice be heard. We can get it to number 1 again. Check our show notes for more information. This has been the ScapeCast Beacon, a call to all Scapers to mobilize.
This is Got Leviathan. What hooked me into Farscape? The Technicolor humor had me hooked from the very first episode. It was the see what I have look that John wears when he shows Aaron that he has stolen a fork so that they can escape their cell. In IET, John shows Dargo and Aaron how to use one of their own scanners. Well, it's just like a VCR, except easier. Escape from Genesis, Aaron proudly describes the Peacekeepers. I'm sure your world has no force so ruthless, so disciplined. John replies, we call them linebackers, or serial killers. Depends on whether they're professional or amateur. I love the humor that John uses to retain his sanity and his connection to Earth. No offense, human, but what could I possibly need from you, she asks. Oh, I don't know. Manners, personality, stock tips. In Rhapsody in Blue, John accuses Aaron of stealing his clothes, and she looks at the back of the shorts she's clearly taken from him and asks, "What does this say?" John replies, "Calvin," proving that it's his. "Ah, then it's not yours," she says. "If you have a large family and have done laundry with kids, then you've been there and done that." It isn't all verbal comedy. John and Aaron almost have sex, and later he asks her, "Just to be absolutely certain, you are the female of your species, right?" She clearly answers his question with one of her own. I didn't really care for the slapstick parts of Revenging Angel or Don Quixote, but the humor is what got me hooked.
And now we have part 2 of that Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy themed article series entitled The Whole General Uncharted Mishmash. And this series is being written by Kelly Morris.
I am not Kirk, Spock, Luke, Buck, Flash, or Arthur Frellington.
With that bold statement, John Crichton threw down a gauntlet. Kirk, Spock, Luke, these comparisons aren't even worth considering. But John isn't Arthur? We've been examining the interesting parallels between John Crichton and Arthur Dent, the protagonist of Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's trilogy. Last time we saw that the universes in which John and Arthur exist are very similar. Confusing, jumbled, random, and cruel.
Life. Don't talk to me about life.
But that doesn't mean beings live in those universes in the same way, does it? Just because the rules are the same doesn't mean that the game gets played the same. So how do intelligent beings cope with such a universe? In this segment, we'll look at Farscape and the Guide, in the faint hope we can find an answer. What is it like to live in absurdity? First off, what has ended up living in these universes? Threats. Among the threatening races of the Guide are the Vogons.
Vogons are one of the most unpleasant races in the galaxy. Not evil, but bad-tempered, bureaucratic, officious, and callous.
Bureaucratic is putting it lightly. A Vogon does nothing without permission. And once it has permission, it'll see the job done, no matter how illogical or conflicting the orders. How are Vogons like the Scarans?
Plan to exterminate the Sebastians, but they won't stop there. Nor with Luxons, Delvians, Banniks, or 1,000 other lower life forms, they'll stop when they are the only sentient species left.
It would seem at first that they have very little in common, beyond antagonizing the protagonists. But it turns out that they're surprisingly similar. The story goes that when the first Vogons emerged from the primordial muck, it was as if the forces of evolution had simply given up on them there and then, had turned aside in disgust, and written them off as an ugly and unfortunate mistake. They never evolved again. So they did without, and eventually became the chief bureaucrats of the galaxy, which allowed them to spread misery and demolish things, including the Earth. Scarans have a similar history, which they also have managed to overcome.
'Cause they need 'em. Scarans. Simplistic, brutish creatures. Should have died out generations ago.
What happens if they eat the flower?
Big brains, evolutionarily competitive. You know, stall like Arkner.
And if they don't eat them?
Your dog could beat him at checkers. Ha!
They're cheaters. So what? Well, one hilarious consequence is...
Vogon poetry is widely accepted as the third worst in the universe.
Modern Vogons employ their awful, awful poetry as a form of torture. But they never intended to make bad poetry. Quite the opposite, in fact. Vogons first attempted poetry to fit in with the other races in the galaxy, who all knew how to produce great art and literature. Now consider what the Eidolon Yondalau tells Stalik in Peacekeeper Wars.
Emperor Stalik, you wish power, acknowledgement of your personal intelligence, and to gain acceptance in the upper echelon of civilizations. There are many paths to accomplish them.
War is our path. At the peace table, we know how we're viewed. Brutish, ignorant.
They don't integrate well. While the Vogons and Scarans have great power, their unnatural development has resulted in unbalanced societies. The Scarans and Vogons pay with omnipresent feelings of inadequacy, while everyone else pays in blood. In a universe so vast, confusing, and threat-filled, individuals want and need something, a key to their existence, an elixir that will make everything right. What these elixirs are tend to differ.
The answer to life, the universe, everything. We'd really like an answer. Something simple.
The people of the Guide want to understand the universe and know their place in it. The elixir on Farscape, well, that's a bit different.
The wormhole technology in your brain will sway the balance of power as we know it. Imagine the ability to move an army in an instant, the power to make hostile planets disappear.
The people in Farscape want to impose their will on the universe and make their place in it. The problem with elixirs is...
the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is 42.
42?
Yes, I thought it over quite thoroughly. It is, it's 42.
They might not be satisfying, or still worse.
Wormholes. The knowledge to unravel events. For that alone I should kill you.
The power of the elixir might be way more than anyone bargained for. Reason, most of us would say, should be the way people get by in the universe. After all, reason is what separates us from the animals. Both the Guide and Farscape, however, would disagree. The universe of the Guide is too jumbled and confused. Applying reason to it is beyond silly, and most of those who try are ruthlessly mocked for the attempt. While reason is often useful on Farscape, those who use it are still not above being mocked.
No, but I simply cannot comprehend
Neither
how
can
the...
I. Who cares? We're here, they did it, and that's that. You consider yourself intelligent?
Yes, I do.
Then stop behaving like a child.
Things keep happening that reason can't handle. Still, our rational minds keep trying to find patterns in the chaos. And we find enough patterns that some of us start talking about fate. Fate can be useful. It's reassuring to think that things are happening because of something.
Coin toss.
What, like that side up? You stay?
Absolutely. Fate.
The trouble is, sometimes things that are thought of to be fate don't happen, and the rational mind has trouble accepting that.
You assume that the answer is going to be different from the other 1,000 times you've asked the question.
Because is not an answer.
Now, Aaron and John do end up together, of course. But was it fate who snuck into Scaran territory to rescue Aaron? Did it make overtures to John on Christmas? No, John and Aaron did that. Fate didn't cause their reunion. That was Scorpius who saved Aaron's life. The actions of all three brought John and Aaron back together. So how can we know what actions we're supposed to take in this universe? Reason? Actually, more often than not, the reasonable thing to do isn't the right thing at all.
We must face reality here. The only sensible course of action is...
I'm sorry, Sparky. What were you saying?
Is to do everything in our power to save Aaron's life.
Right.
Even though it's likely to get us killed.
So if we don't have reason, what are we left with? Zaphod Beeblebrox, president of the galaxy in the Guide, is the man with the plan.
This is the right one! I have a hunch! Ford! His hunches are good!
Unfortunately, Zaphod has no idea what his plan is. It's in a part of his brain that he's sectioned off. The bastard, he says of himself. He can't access his plan directly. Instead, it guides him by instinct through his many trials. Just like Crichton's wormhole knowledge, in fact.
The unconscious knowledge we've given you will guide you. Nothing more.
The knowledge in Zaphod and Crichton's heads serves as a metaphor for the unconscious, the best bet when dealing with an absurd universe. The unconscious is instinct, feeling, and emotion. Like the absurd universe, it's chaotic, dark, vast, dangerous, and powerful. In embracing it, John and Zaphod embrace the random currents of the universe and the unpredictable ebb and flow of events. When Zaphod and John go on instinct, that's when they find their way. Embracing the unconscious may show you your path, but it doesn't ensure success or even survival. The universe loves throwing curves. Plans fail, complications arise. Things rarely go the way anyone wants. It's pointless to wail and moan and gnash our teeth against it. Instead, we ultimately have to remember.
No dream is guaranteed, Commander. The grace of age is we learn to accept.
Not very reassuring? Perhaps your guide can help.
What to do if you find yourself stuck with no hope of rescue. Consider how lucky you are that life has been good to you so far. Alternatively, if life hasn't been good to you so far, which, given your current circumstances, seems more likely, consider how lucky you are that it won't be troubling you much longer.
And there we have it. Not only do John and Arthur inhabit similar universes, life in those universes uses the same techniques to get by. Next time we'll look at the men themselves. See if John really knows where his towel is, or if he's more like Arthur Dent than he'd care to admit. I'm Hank Schiffman for the ScapeCast.
Wow, now that we've heard the second part in that series, there's some interesting parallels that are starting to come out.
Yeah, there's some really neat stuff in there. It's great to be able to step back and see the comparison between Farscape and that, and also seeing some notes on what's coming up in Part 3. I won't give it away, but it's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to hearing a little more there, so that's some great stuff that Kelly's put together.
You're listening to the ScapeCast, your guide to the wonders of Farscape.
I'm Wendy Hembrock with the news. ADV Films has released Farscape Starburst Edition 4.2 this month. The edition features commentary on the episode Kansas with Ben Browder, Claudia Black, and David Kemper, plus other features like Listening In with Guy Gross, the composer, and character features on Scorpius with Wayne Pygram. The plush Rigel doll is due out this month. Check the show notes for links to pre-order your Dominar. Rigel is the first plush Farscape figure ever, standing 13.5 inches tall. A smaller Rigel is planned by Toy Vault, along with a plush DRD and a plush Scorpius. More Farscape props and costumes were recently auctioned on eBay by Creation Entertainment. Many of the items were from the Peacekeeper Wars, including a Dargo costume with his bullet wounds. How big is that wardrobe closet anyway? Lonnie Tupu has started a new series of artwork called Us Travel Diaries. The first in the series is set on Pier 56 in Seattle, Washington. You can check his website for updates on the series. Little Fish, directed by Rowan Wood, director of many Farscape episodes, has been released to DVD. The film won several Australian Film Institute awards for actors Cate Blanchett and Hugo Weaving, and for the editing and sound. The film was nominated for Best Film, but lost to the film Look Both Ways. Following the Hollywood tapings of Puppet Up Improv, the Jim Henson Company's renowned puppeteers will demonstrate what happens when comic improvisation is mixed with uninhibited anarchy of live puppets at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, the world's largest arts festival. Tickets for dates between August 4th to August 20th are on sale now. The Jim Henson Company is partnering with the CG animation firm Orphanage Animation Studios on The Power of the Dark Crystal, the sequel to The Dark Crystal, tentatively slated for 2008 release. Scott Stewart, chairman of Orphanage Animation Studios, discussed the emerging CG marketplace in a recent interview. He said, quote, "If Pixar is the Disney of CG animation, then we'd like to try to be the Warner Brothers." He said there's a lot of room to do more than has been done stylistically or creatively in the last 10 years, saying the art form is in its infancy. The key to animation, he added, is the performance, and we know how the Jim Henson Company can deliver great performances. Farscape producer Andrew Prouse will work on a live-action feature based on the award-winning comic book The Adventures of Luther Arkwright. The story follows Luther Arkwright, a man who possesses psychokinetic abilities that allow him to travel across parallel worlds, collectively known as the multiverse. Luther is recruited by agents from a harmonious parallel universe known as 00, and he's sent to a war-torn alternate reality where a dictatorial British Empire is still in power. Look for Natalie Mendoza, who played Lushala in the episode Jeremiah Crichton, in the recently released horror film The Descent. Natalie plays Juno, one of an all-female caving expedition, when of course things go horribly wrong. Otherwise it wouldn't be a horror film. The film is notable for its critical success, nominated by the London Film Critics Circle for Best British Film, Best British Director, and Best British Producer, which is unheard of for a genre film. And now for the convention report. Gigi Edgley will be appearing at Gen Con in Indianapolis, Indiana, August 10th through the 13th. Virginia Hay appears at the Star Trek 40th Anniversary in Las Vegas, Nevada, August 17th through the 20th. Virginia also appears at Dragon Con in Atlanta, Georgia, September 1st through the 4th. Marv Wolfman, the author of the Farscape comic, is also featured, and the Southeast Scapers will be hosting the premiere of Stolen Life, the animated film that includes voice work by Claudia Black. Our own Kurt and Kevin will be featured on one of the podcasting panels. They will also represent the ScapeCast should we happen to win that podcasting award we've been nominated for. Check the show notes for details on all the topics in today's show. I'm Wendy Hembrock for the ScapeCast.
Wow, how about all those costumes that Creation is auctioning off again? I mean, how many pairs of Crichton leather pants do they have? I mean, it seems like there's an auction every month of another pair of Crichton trousers. What's up with that?
Yeah, there was just a ton of stuff listed there. I know some of it was ongoing, some of it was closed. I mean, I look at that, and that's when I wish I'd hit the lottery lately or been that person who won like the $200 million out in the Midwest this week.
Yeah, no kidding, me too. Then I could buy, the coolest costume that I saw on auction this time was Dargo's costume from Won't Get Fooled Again, that funky checkered shirt, but the prize of that costume is those white shoes, those white creepers. I want Dargo's white creepers. So anybody, lottery winners, feeling generous, contact me, kim.t@scapecast.org, hook me up. I want those shoes.
Yeah, and this time of year, as Wendy mentioned too, there's just all kinds of cons going on. I mean, if you did get your hands on any of that stuff, you'd have plenty of places to be wearing it and going to. I know there's all kinds of things in August and early September, and some Farscape folks at several of those cons, and I'm really looking forward to the Dragon Con parts there to get to see Virginia Hay and a lot of the other Scapers. So cool stuff there. I hope some of our listeners are getting out to those shows too.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I want to go too. The only one I go to is San Diego every year. The rest I usually can't make it. So you guys have fun for me.
Yes, we plan to.
I'm sure you will.
Pilot, are we having a problem with the comms?
I was just checking them. Some slight irregularities, but they appear to be functioning normally.
So you want to contact the ScapeCast, huh? We give you 3 easy ways. You can send an email to us at feedback@scapecast.org, or you can open up your web browser and go to our forums at scapecast.org, or you can call our voicemail line at area code 206-350-MOYA. That's 206-350-6692.
And up next is a character review on Season 1 Aaron's Son, written by Mark Volleback.
The beautiful Aaron Sun is perhaps the most human-looking, yet most alien, of all the creatures John Crichton meets in his travels. Their apparent human physical similarities aside, the two seem to have nothing in common. She is a warrior, and in her view, Crichton's some kind of deficient, lesser life form. Her first words and actions to Crichton are exemplary of who Aaron Sun is.
Peacekeeper. You're one of those out there attacking the ship. They think I'm one of you?
Officer Aaron Sun, Special Peacekeeper Commando, Icarian Company, plies our regiment.
Her rearing as a peacekeeper began at birth, a role she accepted unflinchingly. She embraced duty, obedience, and conformity to the military command structure. Aaron Sun was firmly entrenched as the elite pilot. She knew her place in the universe. Then she got kicked off her high horse into the Dren with the low-life prisoners. Her expulsion from that peacekeeper life was abrupt. She was left at a loss how to deal with the ensuing chaos aboard Moya. Everyone on Moya has good reason to hate her based purely on her species and previous allegiance to the peacekeepers. She is the enemy, the oppressor to all. Despite being chased by Crace and his commandos, John Crichton tries to see Aaron as an ally and a fellow human, however naive and flawed that assumption might be. He insists they bring Aaron back to Moya despite her protests. Crichton tells Aaron a transformational truth. She can be more than her training as a peacekeeper. But in exile aboard Moya, Aaron finds herself to be more of the outsider amongst the criminal fugitives. To cope, Aaron brings her peacekeeper training and mentality to her new life on Moya.
We're stuck together. And as long as we are, we might as well be...
What? Family? Friends? I want neither.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to be there when you need it.
No offense, human. What can I possibly need from you?
Aaron has no use for the friendship this human so badly craves. Her training has never failed her before. Why should a simple change of venue alter that? But Aaron recognizes that she must adapt, and does slowly accept Crichton's help. And thank God it's Friday again, she doesn't want to do science, even though it's necessary to save Rigel, and because Crichton is not aboard. Her lack of knowledge is a weakness she avoids facing. Aaron is constantly confronted by the walls between what was once her purview and that of others breaking down.
This particle analyzer is defective. It's peacekeeper technology. You use it.
Techs use them, not infantry.
When she gets heat delirium, Aaron confesses to Pilot that she expects no help from the others, and understands why. Indeed, Rigel and Dargo seem indifferent to her suffering. Crichton is the one she turns to for help. She pleads for him to kill her, as a friend would do.
It's up to you.
Aaron, no, I'm trying to...
Before the living death takes hold, you have to be prepared to kill me. Promise.
No, not a chance.
You said I'm not alone. A friend would do this for me. Family would do it swiftly.
Then later she admits her thinking has changed a little about lesser life forms.
You know, I always thought that lesser life forms were useless. Just something to be squashed.
Yeah, it's humbling when you realize that... You're not talking about the Drax, are you? Fine. Well, on behalf of lesser life forms everywhere, I accept the compliment.
Each time Aaron runs into peacekeeper artifacts, or actual peacekeepers, she's confronted with the reality of her situation and reminded of what she has lost. On the Zelbinian, Aaron's visit gives her an illusory return to the world of the peacekeepers. Walking around the legendary ship returns her to comforting childhood memory of a shining moment in peacekeeper history. It seems to give her an opportunity to return to her familiar home and the life she so dearly misses, if just for a few arns. But the fleeting taste of that sweet dream makes the awful truth more bitter.
Officer Cranda. Cranda? What was he doing guarding the likes of you? This is Grot's work.
Your whole unit was demoted after your defection. They can only be reinstated upon your death.
The unit Aaron speaks so proudly of has been demoted into obscurity. They were more than her comrades. They were her friends and her family. Now they all suffer an ignominy at her hands. Jelena becomes the focal point of Aaron's anger and frustration regarding her lost life, since Jelena can return, and Aaron will be forever on the outside trying to get back in. The symbolism of the dead carrier is not lost on Aaron either. More than simply saying you can never go home, it shows her viscerally just what she has done to her home. John understands what she's experiencing, perhaps better than she does.
If I somehow, someday get a chance to return to my world, walk around my old neighborhood, I see my old house, best friend's bike on the lawn, and then I get a chance to go inside. I walk through the living room upstairs to my room, and then I think, what if everyone were dead? What if all my friends and family were lying there, dead? Now, what would it be like to go home then?
Later, Aaron coaches Jelena on how to return to the command carrier. Aaron makes no bones about the path taken and encourages Jelena to return to Crace.
You know what happened to me. Being deemed irreversibly contaminated by Crace. Contamination by enemy life forms. That could happen to you. Punishment is death. Or worse, banishment. I hope you will only ever imagine how horrible it is to never return to the life that you love. You are smarter than that, Jelena.
Aaron is still processing her banishment from her past life. The ruins of the Zelbinian helped her face that reality and begin to define herself beyond that life. In DNA Mad Scientist, the reality of her place in the universe, or lack thereof, truly sinks in. The crew are exploring possible routes home, all of them except Crichton, whose planet is literally off the star charts, and Erin, who could never return home. She is so engrossed in self-pity, she uninterestedly drops a dire revelation about the rest of the crew's actions towards Pilot on an unsuspecting John.
Have you forgotten? Namtar's demand. I mean, unless Pilot volunteers one of his arms, we're all going to be blasting out of here together in about 1 hour.
You saw the looks on the others' faces. What makes you think they're going to wait for Pilot to volunteer anything?
Erin recognizes the self-centered desperation that unites her shipmates, but she's truly alone, which must be terrifying for someone whose life aboard military ships has been surrounded by other peacekeepers. Erin acts in equal amounts of recklessness and desperation to her situation by submitting to Namtar's testing.
It's Namtar. He took some of Pilot's DNA, and
How did,
I went back there. I wanted him to find me a place where I could belong. I didn't want to get left behind. I'm so scared.
The injection of Pilot's DNA gives Erin a chance to see how the other half lives in the most violent fashion. To paraphrase Atticus Finch, you never really understand a person until you consider things from their point of view, until you climb into their skin and walk around in it. Erin will never be the same again after getting a dose of Pilot's DNA. Again, Erin turns to the inferior human John for help, as her body betrays her, and she starts to disappear and become something else. This loss of self is a weakness she never imagined she would face, and has no peacekeeper training for it. In the aftermath, she reevaluates her perceptions of everything. She has experienced the way Pilot sees the universe, how beautifully alien his mind works, and knows she can never see him as inferior again. Erin also knows that she herself is unique and wants to retain her own identity. The world built on her peacekeeper training continues to crumble. She is finally beginning to shed her past life and find her true self.
If I figure out a way to make a wormhole, I am out of here. I'm out of your hair once and for all. Unless you want to come with me, that offer's still open. You want to think about it?
No, I don't want to think about it.
Talk about it.
No.
Despite the progress Erin makes in bonding with the crew and finding her place, she will not let go of the dream of return and refuses to go to Earth with Crichton. She sums it up perfectly until the blood runs clear.
Because it was nice, just for a moment, to believe it was genuine, that I could go back.
Erin's past comes storming back into her life when Lorak and his commando unit tries to take over Moya. But deep down she knows she has come too far to simply run away with Lorak, however appealing the idea might be.
This may sound funny, but you ever think about going special ops?
Me?
I've seen you in action. What are you doing in New Star Regiment, huh? You're being wasted there. You're wasting yourself there. Plus, I like the idea of having you nearby.
Erin is incredibly pleased with this praise. It's everything she could have wanted when she was a peacekeeper, being part of an elite commando unit, valued and respected for her skills, and the possibility of a commander with whom she would have great chemistry. But she knows that everything that has happened has made Lorak's offer an impossibility, but it doesn't stop Erin from wishing for it for a moment. Erin chooses repeatedly to stay with Moya. She doesn't just jump in her prowler and strike out on her own when she could do so at any time. Once Moya's pregnancy and the limitations to Starburst are revealed, Erin says she will not abandon Moya and Pilot, and views the others as disloyal in considering the option. By the time she arrives on the Gammak base to save Crichton, she has no intention of trying to rejoin the Peacekeepers. On the Gammak base, she finally confronts Krace, the person responsible for her banishment. Krace does not recognize her voice, or does not remember her until he sees her face, and even then he doesn't immediately register who she is.
Your oath means nothing to me. You made sure of that. You destroyed everything. I lost everything because of you.
Erin!
Do you know what I learned while I was away from you? Everything I lost isn't worth a damn.
And I don't want to go back to your past.
Aaron leaves Crace to his painful memories, just as he has left her with memories of a life she can never have again. Aaron finally declares that she can't go back to her destroyed life and would never want to. This is a huge step for her, as she spent most of Season 1 trying to reclaim the structure and order of her old life. She finally starts to accept that her life is in the uncharted territory, no longer in the world of Peacekeeper-controlled space. Aaron finds her new life in the way a Peacekeeper would: choose a ship and form a crew. At first it's chaos, and roles change daily based on circumstance. Aaron forms bonds with the so-called lesser life forms on Boyd Moya. They begin as bonds of convenience, like when she is literally blinded by solar flares and must rely on Crichton for help. But eventually she forms deep bonds of friendship. She chooses to risk her life for the crew members, like in the Flax episode, where she chooses to die trying to resuscitate Crichton rather than save herself because she doesn't want to die alone.
You should have kept working. Finished the repair, at least one of us would have survived.
To be sitting here alone now? I chose not to.
Our peacekeepers were trained to fight alone, survive alone, die alone.
Well, it appears my training is failing me. I don't want to die alone.
This may be an act of true love, but it's also an affirmation of her true identity and beliefs. In episode 1, she tells Crichton she hates the feeling of compassion, yet it is exactly this compassion for Talon that helps him understand his situation and bond with his mother. By the season finale episode, Family Ties, Aaron is firmly committed to saving Dargo and Crichton.
Remember, if you get this right, the Peacekeepers will be so focused on the transport pod they'll never notice the two of you.
Zero margin for error.
I'll be there.
I can only last a quarter
I'll
of
be
it.
there.
I wasn't gonna say goodbye.
Neither was I.
With perfect closure, in the season finale, Aaron stays behind in her prowler to rescue Dargo and Crichton, the two people she planned to turn over to the Peacekeepers in the series premiere. Aaron has been dealing with expulsion from the Peacekeepers. Now she finally begins to see a life full of beautiful uncertainty beyond the Peacekeepers, and tentatively embraces it. We meet her as Aaron Sun, Icarian Company plies our regiment, intending to dutifully recapture the escaped prisoners. At the end of Season 1, Aaron Sun has become friend, protector, savior, shipmate, and hero to those same prisoners. She's risking her life for those aliens she once thought were like bugs to squash. She is on the path to define who she is, her home, and her family. She has become more than her breeding. This is not the end for Aaron's son, but a new beginning filled with possibilities. I'm Wendy Hembrock for the ScapeCast.
You know, I really love those character reviews, especially starting right from the beginning. I know for some of the seasoned Scapers, you know, we want to get into the really meaty character movement through the arcs, but it's nice to see the grounding to get the very beginning so we can actually chart the whole growth of each of these characters.
Yeah, and Aaron grows so much in Season 1. Just Aaron. I mean, even if you only study one character, Aaron is... there's a lot there.
Yeah, but that's the cool part. We don't have to study just one. We get all of them because we got such
That's
good
true.
writers going into some really great stuff. I really appreciate that myself. I love hearing it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm Brad.
I'm Glenn.
And I'm Christina.
And we're from the Podculture Podcast and podculture.net.
When you're done here and you find yourself hungry for some more geeky goodness, head on over and check us out at podculture.net and at our forums located at bluegrassbrowncoats.net.
From A+ shows to grade Z movies and everything else in between, like comics and video games, we'll be rambling on about whatever happens to be going on in our geek worlds.
With segments like What's in Your DVD Player, Brad's Rants, and Geek Cuisine. Along with the occasional special musical guest, there's something for the geek in us all.
So let your geek flag fly and head on out to our little corner of the verse.
www.podculture.net.
Podculture. Equal opportunity geekness.
Be seeing you.
Hey, wait,
I got a couple of questions. A couple of 1,000 more questions.
Question of the week.
This week's question that we had for everybody was, what episode do you like to watch over and over, and why?
Earthbound Misfit writes, I have an easy answer to this one. I definitely have to choose Revenging Angel. I could just sit and watch that episode over and over. It cracks me up every time I see it. Not only is it an excellent episode, but it's also like watching every single Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote cartoon along with it. I could never get tired of watching Dargo slamming into the solid rock face where John had painted a wormhole and then driven his module straight through it. Pure comedy. If Farscape is ever likely to be brought back, I'd like a few more animated episodes just like it, please. Hell yeah.
I actually have two that I watch over and over again, both from Season 3. First, Scratch and Sniff. This episode is so wacky and out there and different from basically any other show. I have actually scaped a few people with this episode. It's a lot of fun and never fails to cheer me up. It's nice to have a silly episode on Farscape, especially right before the Infinite Possibilities two-parter. And number 2, Dog with Two Bones. This episode is the complete opposite of Scratch and Sniff. Where the first is just happy and weird, Dog with Two Bones never fails to break my heart every single time that I watch it. Claudia and Ben are absolutely fantastic. The coin toss scene just kills me every single time that I watch it. Crichton just wants to be with Aaron. He made that decision. And then the old lady telling Crichton that Aaron is with child. I was gobsmacked. Just an amazing episode. Portkey 00 on the ScapeCast forum.
Jarek posts, alas, a pointless post in regards to an actual answer, as I do not watch individual episodes of any series that I own on DVD. Since I have watched all of Farscape and my other shows at least twice on DVD, as well as on TV, I understand the context that single episodes may exist in, but I just like the whole feel of watching something from scratch. I guess I'm an all or nothing type of guy.
Hi, this is Brent from the ScapeCast. Even though I don't consider it my favorite episode, We're So Screwed Part 1 holds that honor for me. I'd have to say that the episode I find myself rewatching over and over again is Fractures. I just love well-done romantic angst and romantic optimism, and Fractures is the ultimate in both camps. The episode is full of angst, but at the end you get that twinkle of hope while Aaron listens to John's message. If I sit down to start rewatching episodes these days, I find myself always starting with that episode.
Blitz writes to our forum, I love to watch Crichton Kicks. This episode is both hilarious, with Crichton speaking Klingon, impersonating a goat, Harvey running in the surf, and poignant. On the beach with Aaron, struggling with a half-blind Shiana, and the friendship with the old pilot. As well as having some pretty great music and a world-class plan involving ropes and pulleys. It is not a standalone episode. Are there really any? And yet, it has a self-contained feel to it, so if I'm in the mood for a little Farscape, this is where I usually turn.
Question of the week.
Well, this isn't quite a fair question, because Kevin, you've only seen the series one time. You haven't even seen an episode twice. See, this is no fair. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give more than one answer to make up for you. How's that sound?
Well, that's perfect. I thought that was the perfect reason to have you as the host. I knew you wouldn't pick just one, so you could cover enough for both of us. And Lindy's not even here to yell at me, so this is perfect.
I could cover for Lindy, too. There's so many. There's a bunch of season 2s, because when I first got into Farscape, I was watching season 1 on DVD and season 2 in syndication out of order. So there were a bunch of episodes that I caught more than once, and I totally fell in love with. One is The Locket, because at the end of that stupid episode, it's not a stupid episode, but it makes me cry every time. I mean, a show that grabs me and makes me cry over and over again. I mean, that's a keeper. That's one that I like to watch. Through the Looking Glass. I really like Through the Looking Glass. It's sort of one of those hidden gems. Not everybody picks it, but I always do. It's one of the ones I saw over and over again. I think one of the reasons is probably just Dargo. 1 Mippi-Pippi, 2 Mippi-Pippi, and all the vomiting in the episode. I know, I pick up on bizarre stuff. Everyone else picks up on character development and all this great symbolism and all the romance. No, I chose Vomit because I just think it's funny. And there's a couple others. Out of Their Minds, of course, because it's always fun watching a Rigel trying to pee as Crichton and Crichton inside of Aaron. And anyway, yeah, so... There's 3 answers. Is that enough? Does that cover everybody?
I think that's enough. I think you covered several
I think
good
that covers
ones.
Everybody.
and we got some great ones from the listeners too. I mean, I did look through like a listing of the episodes. I mean, I knew I couldn't really answer the question, but it was funny. I went and looked through the episode lists, and I started looking at ones going, "Ooh, I can't wait to watch that one again," and all. So I'm looking forward to. Probably for me, it'll be a few weeks with all the prep stuff doing for Dragon Con to get the time to start again. But I'll go back to the very beginning again. I want to see the whole arc move its way through.
When it's not the whole arc, if I'm not on a mission to rewatch the season in order, I got 2 more. Is Liars, Guns, and Money. I just love Liars, Guns, and Money. That's a really good one. There's so much drama, and Aaron kicks ass, and we get to see, Bakesh again.
Yep.
Bakesh, thank you for teaching me how to kill again. Yeah, that's my boy. Our next question of the week. All right, everybody write this one down. What is your favorite Rigel moment? Come on, everybody's got one.
At least
one. You
one.
gotta tell us what it is.
At
least one. I've got more than one.
Yeah, and we know Kim will come back with at least 2.
What is that?
That's cutting-edge technology.
We're taking mine.
Welcome back. I got the answer to your trivia question right here. I asked you in how many episodes we see Aaron's Prowler. The answer is 18 episodes. If you don't believe me, check the show notes to find the proof. For the ScapeCast, I'm Brent Barrett.
This episode has been brought to you by the word wellness. Grr, arg. Shiver my timber, shiver my soul. Yo ho hee ho. We sail our ship across the ocean blue. A bloodthirsty captain and a cutthroat crew. It's as dark a tale as was ever told of the lust for treasure and the love of gold.
Hello, ScapeCast listeners. This is Nicola Wood at Timeless Destinations with Gigi Edgley and David Franklin. Stay tuned for more.
Well, it's great now. We've come to the end again. A lot of good articles and discussions and feedback from the listeners. There was some really cool stuff in there. And one thing I definitely want to do before we sign off is I want to thank a lot of the listeners. We've started to use our Talk to Us Now button that we have there on the website so that you can leave us a recorded message without having to take and record it on your own computer and email it to us. That Talk to Us Now has gotten very popular lately with folks giving us their answers, and that's really cool to see folks taking advantage of that. We appreciate that.
Yeah, we like to hear you guys in your own voices, not just us. We want to put you on too. This is about you guys too. So don't be afraid, don't be shy. Use the Talk to Us Now button. And as I tried to say earlier before you interrupted me, Kevin.
Yes, I did. I had to make everybody wait.
Yeah, I think that Lindy, Nicola, and Sammy are bringing back some really cool stuff for us to include on our future shows. I can't let the cat out of the bag just yet, but stay tuned. You don't want to miss it. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.
Yeah, no, it sounds like they had lots of fun, and I think we're going to have some stuff you folks have been asking for and are looking forward to. So that'll be very cool and coming up very soon. I want to thank Kim for being able to pinch hit and step in here for Lindy. We really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm terrified, but I think I'm doing okay.
You're doing great, trust me. You're doing great. This part of the fun here is getting everybody involved.
More like baptism by fire.
just like Farscape. It wouldn't be Farscape if it was well thought out and planned, would it now?
You're right.
That's right. We just wing it. So we really appreciate everyone. Thanks again for joining us on this journey. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Kim. And now it's time to disable your comms and find new wonders. Until next time.
This is John Crichton. Somewhere in the universe.
You've been listening to the ScapeCast, Episode 9, produced August 2006. Writers for this episode were Kevin Batchelder, Kimberly Thompson, Nicola Wood, Wendy Hembrock, Brent Barrett, Kelly Morris, Mark Bolovac, and Kurt Armbruster. This episode featured voice performances by
Kevin Batchelder,
Kimberly Thompson,
Hank Schiffman,
Brent Barrett,
Wendy Hembrock,
Kurt Armbruster.
Sorry, I just pulled my headset off. I'll screw up. I'm just falling apart here.
For the entire ScapeCast crew, I'm Brent Barrett. Thank you for listening and fly safe.